Hello, everyone. Welcome to a limited edition of Sportscenter. Along with Steve, Levy, I'm Gary Miller. We're in this Bristol. We'll get you back out to Bristol, Tennessee for the rest of the truck race as soon as they fix the fence, but a little sports.
Yeah, coming up on this mini edition of Sportscenter, we have, first of all, a couple of tremendous baseball games right at the start. We'll tell you about the NHL Draft, which was held today, and Fight Night all over this country. But again, we begin with baseball and a player who's been through quite a wild ride that continues.
A classic between the Yankees and Indians. And in 1981, Steve Howe was the reigning Rookie of the Year and on the mound when the Dodgers won the World Series. 2 years later, a string of 7 suspensions commenced that would twist through the Twins in Texas and climax in 1992 with baseball's first permanent ban for drug use. An arbitrator reinstated Howe to the Yankees, where he has been until his release on Saturday. It's likely the end of one of professional sports' longest roads. But even with his .635 ERA, the Yanks could have used Howe in Cleveland as they engaged the Indians in one of the longest games in league history. It started out like a laugher. Scoreless in the second, Dennis Martinez, who never beats the Yanks. Tino Martinez pops it in there. Omar Vizquel over the shoulder. What a grab as he falls over Albert Bell, just back from his suspension. Scoreless through 2, drive up 2-0 in the fourth, then they open up on Kenny Rogers. Eddie Murray, his 9th home run of the year. He's now just 12 from joining the 500 club. 3-0 Indians, still in the fourth. It was a long inning for Rogers. Omar Vizquel with the bases juiced, ropes a shot in the left. That'll score Carlos Baerga and Tony Pena. Cleveland with a fat 5-0 lead. They reload the bases. Bell's back in the lineup. He's up at the plate. Wickman is in there in relief of Rogers. Got him on a breaking ball. Wickman trying to work his way out of it. 3-2, 2 out. Manny Ramirez. And again, they leave the bases loaded. That could prove costly. In the 6th, they still had a 5-0 lead, but back come the Yanks. A bullet up the box off Martinez. O'Neill will bring home Wade Boggs, and they get off the schneid. Next batter, Tino Martinez, the other way. Bernie Williams makes it 5-2, and the Yanks are mounting a comeback. Ruben Sierra had a huge afternoon and a towering 3-run homer that brings the Yanks into a 5-all tie. Denny Martinez cannot break his jinx against the Yanks. Mike Hargrove gets him out of there, brings in Eric Plunk, and things got worse. Wade Boggs plunks one in the left field. Mariano Duncan makes it a 7-5 New York lead. Hargrove brings out Plunk. Bases loaded walk. Alan Embry in to face O'Neill. Game still at 7-5. O'Neill goes down and gets it, and it is going to boop in front of Kenny Lofton. Joe Girardi and Boggs make it 9-5. 13 batters in the inning. A 9-run 6th. But the Indians had their half of the 6th. Load the bases. Eddie Murray at it again. Saw it out, but he brings home Julio Franco. And with that, he passes Robin Yount 13th all-time on the RBI list. Bases still loaded. Baerga, but it's snared by Derek Jeter. And they get the double play. The tying run stranded at third. It was a 9-8 game in the 7th. Sierra again. A solo shot the other way off Embry. He homers from both sides of the plate, and the Yanks win a wild one. 11-9. The 6th inning alone took over an hour after Franco scored to pull him within 2. He left the game with a right hamstring injury. It's the 5th time in Sierra's career that he has homered from both sides of the plate. The game lasted 4 hours and 10 minutes. That's the longest 9-inning game in Indians history, and it truly was a long afternoon for Cleveland.
Some days that, you know, the breaks go against you, and then you don't do anything to help yourself get out of it, and that's kind of what we've done the last 2 days. That breaks have gone against us, and then we really haven't executed to help ourselves out of those situations.
You're sitting there, and halfway through, everybody's hanging out, talking about, this is, great for Dennis and everything like that, and then next thing you know, everything's hitting the fan. And
Indians aren't used to this. The Yanks are now in position for a 4-game sweep on Sunday when Doc Gooden goes against Jack McDowell. Unheard of. Not only does no other team in the league have a winning record at the Jake, Cleveland is a combined 113-46 in their new home, a 7-11 winning percentage even with the 3 losses to New York. Steve?
Staying in the American League, back on May 15th in Texas, Rusty Greer of the Rangers went big fly, leading off the 9th inning against the Royals closer Jeff Montgomery. Heading into Saturday's action, that remained the only home run allowed by Montgomery in his 41 1/3 innings this season. But as of late, he's been slipping, blowing consecutive save opportunities. And against the Orioles, Montgomery would fall off the deep end, deep being the key word here. Top of the first, Tom Goodwin on first, and he's going with the pitch. Keith Lockhart dart goes through Rafael Palmeiro. Bobby Bonilla picks it up. Well, I didn't pick it up right away. Bobbles. Goodwin's going to try and score. Bobby Bo booted it, throwing the ball into the ground. 2 errors on that play. 1-0 Royals. Tim Belcher was on his game. Gets Bobby Bo swinging. Then facing Cal. Check. Gone. See you later. The call goes against Cal. Belcher had a 2-hitter through 8. Bob Boone would call the bullpen, but he leaves Belcher in. 3-0 Royals. Robbie Alomar is on second. Rafael Palmeiro hits one over the right center field wall. His 17th. Belcher not happy. 3-2 Royals, and here we go. Here's Montgomery in to try and nail it down. His first batter, Bonilla. Golf shot over the right center field wall. Back-to-back homers, suddenly tied at 3. 3 batters later, Cal was on, and Mark Smith, just 1 home run coming into the game. The rookie goes deep. The Orioles hit 3 home runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. They win in dramatic fashion, 5-3. In this one for KC, it's only their 2nd loss in 28 games this season when leading in the 9th inning. It's Montgomery's 3rd straight blown save. Overall, KC has dropped 10 of their last 13. After another close shave by the Orioles, Baltimore now has the 2nd best record in the American League in games decided by 2 runs or less. The O's are 18-10 in those encounters. They're also 9-2 overall against KC, including 5-0 at the yards. Remember, good teams win the close ones. White Sox have lost 7 straight. Mariners have won 2 straight since the loss of Junior in the 1st inning. Edgar Martinez, slow roller. Robin Ventura, charge, barehanded, gun. Got him to Frank Thomas at first. Bottom 7. Thomas facing Bobby Ayala. Men on 1st and 2nd. Nobody out. 4-2 Mariners. A little high cheese. Frank dropped the bat. Not too happy with that. Same at bat. Frank reaches outside. Soft liner to Alex Rodriguez. 1 out. Next batter, Harold Baines. Grounds one to Joey Cora. 4-6-3. Paul Sereno was drawn off the bag, but he makes the nice tag. 2 on, no outs, no one scores. And the Mariners win 4-2. Chicago upset about a number of different things. For Seattle, it's now 3 games without Griffin. They're 3-0. Yeah, that's right. They're better off without him. Bob Wells wins his 4th straight start since being converted from long relief. The White Sox have lost 8 straight. No comment from manager Terry Bevington, who said he doesn't talk about streaks. Gary.
The last time the Germans had a heavyweight champion was Max Schmeling in 1930. Last April, Axel Schulz appeared to have ended that drought when he punished George Foreman for 12 rounds. But Foreman retained the IBF title in a decision that touched off a near riot by fans back in Germany. Foreman refused to fight Schulz again and was stripped of his title, opening the door for Michael Moore, whose only loss was to Foreman. That cost Moore his belt. The most important fight in Germany since Ali Mildenberger 30 years ago. Axel Schulz taking on Moore for the belt, and Moore came out smoking, establishing the tone in the very first round, landing a series of punches, continuing in the 5th with a combination to the head of Schulz, who was sluggish, had to hold on. By the 7th, something woke up Axel. He came in and started scoring right to the nose of Moore. In the 9th, with the crowd starting to get into it and back their native countrymen, more Schulz. Combination, both hands. At the end of the round, he was starting to seize control. In the 11th, Moore, sensing that the fight was evening out, comes back with his own flurry, a left-right combo. Still in the 11th, an uppercut, and back to the body of Schulz as Moore comes on strong and now looked in command of the fight again. Both sensed that in the 12th, and the best action happened in the final round. Flurry of furious punching going on. Schulz thought he had won, but in a split decision, winning on 2 of the 3 cards, Michael Moore moves to 37-1 in reclaiming his IBF belt. He earns $3.6 million. Schulz got $1.7 million and falls to 21-3-1. All of those losses in title fights, and they all came within the past 14 months.
The actual drafting of players at the NHL Draft was expected to be the least interesting thing to take place at the Kiel Center in St. Louis. Here's what could have happened but didn't. Unrestricted free agent-to-be Wayne Gretzky could have re-signed with the Blues. The Toronto Maple Leafs could have named a new head coach. And the Hartford Whalers could have traded Captain Brendan Shanahan to any number of teams. One big-name trade that did go down, A couple of offensive-minded defensemen were traded for one another. The Penguins and Sergei Zubov to Dallas. Zubov had 66 points in 64 games last season, 7th best among NHL blue liners. In return, Pittsburgh gets Kevin Hatcher. A little less offense, a little more defense, a lot more size and toughness. He goes 6'4", 225. Details on a few other NHL trades later in Sportscenter. And now to the NHL Draft itself. You remember the Quebec Nordiques? During their lean years, they had the top overall pick 3 consecutive seasons. Matt Sundin, Owen Nolan, and of course, Eric Lindros. None of them made the trip to Colorado, but the players that did go as a result of trading those guys are now wearing Avalanche Stanley Cup rings. Will they be saying the same thing about Ottawa in a few years? For the 3rd time in 5 years, the Senators had the #1 choice.
The Ottawa Senators select from the Canadian Hockey League Prince Albert Raiders, Chris Phillips.
Chris Phillips was the first of 13 defensemen taken in the first round. More on that in a bit. And refreshing that he was happy to be drafted by Ottawa. The 2nd pick, the San Jose Sharks took defenseman Andre Zuzin. The 3rd pick to the Islanders, our pal Mike Milbury goes with left wing Jean-Pierre Dumont. Alexander Volkov slipped down from 1st to 2nd as expected, to 4th to Washington. He had 37 goals in 47 games in the Ontario Hockey League. The first U.S.-born player, Eric Rasmussen, to the Buffalo Sabres, and the hosts of the draft.
St. Louis Blues are proud to select Marty Riesener, Boston College.
Marty Riesener selected 14th. We'll give you the entire first round later in a full edition of SportsCenter, but first filling out the top 10. The Oilers take Boyd Devereaux at 6. Scouts say he's the total package except for maybe the size, 6 feet, 175 pounds. So Chris Phillips goes first, and that started a first-round run on defensemen. In all, half of the first-round picks were blue liners. 13 is a first-round record, and 5 of the top 10 overall were defensemen. So GM subscribing to the defense wins championships theory.
The NBA draft is now just 4 days away, but by the time it arrives, it could have a complete facelift. Dallas definitely needed a center and got Eric Montross by shifting down a few spots, but they had been dangling Jimmy Jackson in an effort to get a higher impact big man. Now Jackson and the #9 slot they just inherited from the Celtics for #6 could both be gone before the Sixers start the selection process Wednesday night. And Charles Barkley could be a Texan by then. Published reports in both Arizona and Texas say a deal of Barkley for Jackson and the new #9 are being discussed. A Mavs source says such a trade might be unbalanced. The chance to get a Hall of Famer could help the Mavs' new ownership succeed sooner. Jackson was the 4th overall pick in 1992, but has a growing reputation as a disruptive force and can't seem to coexist with Jason Kidd. While the Mavs would like to jettison Jackson, Barkley has made it clear he wants to be traded to a title contender, and he probably wouldn't consider the Mavs to be that right now. The Suns have explored a deal for Barkley with up to 20 teams, and they're looking for a Herschel Walker type of deal, which would bring them a large combination of draft picks and or younger players, kind of like the one that brought Barkley from Philadelphia.
Still to come here on SportsCenter. By this point, you should be familiar with Dan O'Brien's story. It is the one that has been filled with adulation and underachieving. Can he make up for it and get over the hump this time around? His decathlon highlights are on the way, as are those of the Tigers. Could they possibly pitch back-to-back shutouts? And speaking of pitching, you wouldn't think a 2-game winning streak would be a big deal for Greg Maddux. It is now. And New Jersey Nets coach John Calipari in the news.
SportsCenter is brought to you by the all-new Ford F-150. Strength after strength after strength.
The Boston Globe will report in its Sunday editions that former UMass basketball coach and now the head coach of the New Jersey Nets, John Calipari, gave 3 Final Four tickets to an alleged ticket scalper who was linked to organized crime and banned from working in Las Vegas casinos. It is not known whether those tickets were turned around and sold. Scalping tickets not illegal in New Jersey, where the Final Four was held. Coach Cal did not return calls, but his agent said Calipari had known Michael Toney for 20 years and had long ago promised the tickets if UMass ever reached the Final Four. Gary.
There was reason for Felipe Lira to celebrate Friday night. Potentially the worst pitching staff of all time got its first shutout, and Felipe finally finished the game he started. A shutout by this shell-shocked staff is shocking enough. But a second straight time, it has been so long since Detroit had back-to-back complete game shutouts. Milt Wilcox and Dan Petrie provided them. The year Lamar Hoyt won the Cy Young. Yaz waved goodbye at Fenway. Michael Jackson thrilled us with Beat It. And Cabbage Patch Kids sprouted into kitsch eternity. But it happened. Again, Brian Williams following up Felipe Lira with a 4-hit, 5-strikeout blanking of the Twins, who have now been shut out 3 times in their last 4 games. The offensive hero, Kamara Barti, 3 hits, 2 steals, scored 2 times. It's now the first back-to-back complete game shutouts by Tiger pitching in 13 years. It's their first consecutive shutouts of any kind since 1990. All the more remarkable considering that the Twins' first trip to Detroit, they trampled Detroit with 35 runs. Just a month ago, the Tigers are putting so much hurl and hurling, the staff ERA was .735, which would have shattered the 1930 Phillies' all-time worst mark. They came into this series still sky high at .706, but in just 2 days, they've shaved a fifth of the run off and can now consider a run at getting under the Phil's record.
Cabbage Patch doesn't often make Sportscenter. It is often said about the game's best starting pitchers, if you don't get to them early, you might not get to them at all. The Braves have those type of pitchers, and they also seem to have those type of hitters, the kind that get to opposing pitchers early. Atlanta has outscored the opposition 56-36 in first innings this season and a whopping 44-15 in second innings. They look to score early and often against the Giants. To support Greg Maddux, who for a change needs the help. In his last start, he won for the first time in over a month. Top of the first, he was in trouble. The runner on third gets Mark Carrion to hit a weak grounder to third, throws him out at first. Only one other Giant runner would reach third base. Bottom of the first, he got his run support. Chipper Jones takes a Mark Gardner curve and gone his 13th. 2-0 Braves. Maddux got great defensive support as well. Jeff Blauser robs Matt Williams. Clean pick, and the throw, not a problem. Blauser had 6 assists. Maddux forced 12 groundouts. In the 8th, Maddux cruising in control. Paints the corner to get Kurt Manwaring. Looking, then Tom Lampkin. Not looking, but swinging. Maddux gave up 2 hits, struck out 4. 7th win of the year, and he's back on a roll. The Bravos win 6-0. A season-tying high 5th straight win for Atlanta. Maddux retired 14 straight during one stretch. Chipper now has a career-high 13-game hitting streak. Couple of second-place clubs. The Cards and Expos meeting in Montreal. 36-year-old Mike Morgan. Mark Runzolani gets one of the hole. 41-year-old Ozzie Smith showing the range and the gun. Morgan will retire the first 10 batters. Good to see Ozzie on the field. Expos with a little defense of their own. Mark Sweeney, a liner. F.P. Santangelo, the diving grab. You know that hurts on the turf. 2-zip Cards in the third. Ray Langford hits a shot off Uget Urbina. And he knows it is gone. His 14th of the year. 3-zip Cards. Top of the 5th, bases loaded for a 37-year-old Willie McGee. Base hit through the hole to right. Moise Alou comes up firing. Throw is high. Ozzie and Langford score. It's 6-0 Cards. 34-year-old Danny Schaefer. 2-run double down the line of Omar Dahl in the 5th. 9-0 Cards. The experience there. The young Expo fans not happy with the outcome. The Cards hang on for a 9-4-1. Willie McGee drove in 4 runs. Cardinals' 7th win in their last 10. Their first win in 5 games in Montreal this season. Gary?
It's been 4 years since the favorite to win the decathlon didn't even make the Olympic team. With a comfortable lead through 7 of the 10 events, Dan O'Brien never made it over the bar in the pole vault. He almost never got over it mentally, eventually seeking out a sports psychologist to help deal with the trauma of not making the U.S. Olympic team. Saturday afternoon, he put his repaired mental makeup to the test in the latest Olympic trials. To a steamy Atlanta and the haunted, vaunted pole vault. Got it. Started at a lower height of 14 feet 9 inches. Maybe a psychologist told him to do that. He cleared it easily, and he's pumped. Unlike 1992, he eventually works his way up to 17 feet and 3/4 inches, tying his best performance ever in the decathlon. O'Brien vaults into first place by 75 points. 9th event, O'Brien is now, well, I think you can hear for yourself. Good thing nobody was in the way of that. 214 feet, a personal best in the javelin for O'Brien, and that meant he could put on the shades and just cool it for the 1,500 meters. The 1992 bronze medal winner, Dave Johnson, finished a distant second of the Dan and Dave combo. And also in the 1,500 meters, Steve Fritz finished behind Johnson, but he was moving up on Chris Huffins, who was huffing and puffing and faded entirely in the second half of the decathlon, but there's your winner, Dan O'Brien. Fritz finished second overall. Huffins, who was so dominant in the first half of the two-day decathlon, also did end up making the team with a top 3 performance. The other half of Dan and Dave Johnson, finished 6th overall, saying, "This is certainly my last decathlon." It's not the last of this abbreviated Sports Center. More baseball to bring you, including a seesaw game between the Phils and Rocks, the Bet, and a candid conversation with Barry Larkin about his band boss. The Phillies returned to the Vet Friday, having lost 6 straight, including getting swept at Coors last weekend, having fallen into last place. The walking wounded proceeded to produce an unlikely hero in David Doster in a come-from-behind win and tried to use the same formula Saturday afternoon against the Rocks. Did they make it 2 in a row? Todd Zeal robs Vinny Castillo. Colorado, though, was up 1-0. Then they still had a 1-run lead at 2-1 with 2 outs in the 5th when Dante Bichette goes out. His 13th of the year off Mulholland. Rockies up 4-1 at that point. Same score in the 6th. Mike Benjamin chops one off Kevin Ritz, takes a high bounce off the bag. Castillo trying to chase it down. Benito Santiago off the Harvey Pulliam bobble. He decides to go back to the bag. Wouldn't matter much because the next batter is J.R. Phillips. Had been sent to the minors, he was slumping so horribly. Comes back in a big way. His first career pinch hit homer. Kevin Ritz can't bear to watch. Ties the game at 4. Ryan Hallbletzel comes on in relief. Bases loaded. Too far inside on Santiago. Scores a run with 2 outs. Next batter, Mike Benjamin. He's wild low. Pete Incaviglia puts the Phils up 5-4. In the 8th, though, the Rockies have a chance to tie. Bichette's on 3rd. Talking things over with his third base coach. Harvey Pulliam, the chopper to Zeal. Don't think that's what Coach Glynn told Dante. Dante in distress, gets gunned down.
Well, we just heard what his coach said.
Yes, Gene Glynn said, "Don't do that, whatever you do." It's the Phils' first back-to-back win since May 26th. They had won just 2 games in their previous 14 tries before this. For the first time in 3 years, the Phils get through a game without having a single player strike out. Touche. Mets hosting Cincinnati. Alex Ochoa, the future is now. Just called up. He's checking out Bernard Gilkey, who's been here a while, and robs Willie Green of a home run. Check it out again as Gilkey, who was certain to be an all-star, makes an outstanding defensive play and just started things that Ray Ordonez took over. Ballet of Ray Ordonez. The Mets are psyched about him, and Alex Ochoa is immediately making an impact himself. The other way, knocks in Bernard Gilkey off Jeff Shaw. Mets open a 3-0 lead in the 6th. They're not done. Butch Husky, Mr. Spring Training, has pulled himself together. Rips a double over Eric Davis. That'll score 2, including Ochoa. The Mets have a fat 5-0 lead. In the 7th, the Reds try to rally. Reggie Sanders on 3rd. Davis fakes the bunt, and he didn't even have to. Sanders steals home on Mark Clark. It's 5-1. Then Thomas Howard tries to bunt. Franco on in relief. What a play by Jose Vizcaíno. And Mark Clark gets the big hug. He has been huge. He pitched well, but was 1-5 to start the season. Since then, he's won 6 of his last 7 decisions. Now has a winning record as he and Franco combine on the 4-hitter. By mid-August, the Reds in Major League Baseball will have chosen a replacement for Marge Schott as chief executive of the team through the 1998 season. Although Barry Larkin is a Cincinnati native and has spent his entire career as a Red, his 4-year, $20 million contract expires at the end of this season, and his future in his hometown is very much clouded. In our next Sunday conversation, the Reds' 7-time All-Star talked about the dark cloud Schott has cast over her team.
I tell you, just as a person, white, black, whatever. I think just being associated with the things that have happened in Cincinnati is just an embarrassment. I made a comment, I don't know how many years ago, about, well, that's a black eye for the organization. And then I made another comment about that's a black eye for the organization. Well, there are no more eyes to be blackened here.
That's just part of it. The complete Barry Larkin conversation comes your way on the Sunday Night Sports Center, when the Red shortstop will also discuss differences between Davey Johnson and Ray Knight clubhouses and the influence of Ozzie Smith on himself. That's after Berry goes against Ray Ordonez and the Mets on our Sunday night game of the week.